Alright, okay, so hello dears. Welcome now to the continuation of our video on the parasites that we may recover from our fecal smears. And we have already finished the nematodes. Again, medyo marami. But again, ang ako rang i-include, or the ones that I included are the most common that you can recover. Alright, in our lab class, in the hospitals ba, alright. But again, there are a lot of nematodes pa. There are a lot of roundworms na parasites. And again, you'll have that in your lecture. Okay? Alright, now before we continue with trematodes, guys, again, I'll just emphasize for hookworm and strongy. Ayan, di ba nag-refill lagi ko, guys, for you, Char. For hookworm and strongy, di ba? Because they look the same in terms of their eggs. What we use for differentiation is the larva. So we have the L1 and the L3. Now, I won't discuss that yet here, okay? Because we have a separate activity for that, okay? When we go now to Harada Mori, okay? Harada Mori, which is a culture method, okay? Culture method for these two, particularly hookworm and strongy. And in that presentation or in that lecture, I'll discuss the different characteristics of their larva and how to differentiate, okay? All right, but for hookworm and strongy, again, later na siya na discussion, okay? All right, ayan. Sige. Okay, again, before we continue also, recall lang again ato mga mnemonics before we end sa last video kay medyo di man to klaro na. Again, those that exhibit heart-to-lung migration on sa ato mnemonics, press the buzzer. You have ash, okay? Meaning ascaris, strongy, and hookworm. Very good. Very good, Mark. Charot. Next, you have the soil-transmitted helminths are your, of course, hats. Okay? Silang tanan, plus trichuris. Alright? And lastly, kinsa to mga parasitic triad or the three besties, the tres Marias, no? The unholy three, your hat. Okay, so wala ko na ning S, so kani siya without strongy. Okay. Alright, hat. Hookworm, ascaris, and trichuris. Alright, so ako nang giri-write kay medyo baka hindi maklaro sa last video. Alright, okay. Ayan, now that's for your nematodes or your roundworms. Next, we go now to your trematodes or your flukes. Okay. So before we go to the different species, we'll first go to the general characteristics. So again, pang lecture niya siya na information na gyud. But sige lang, at least you already know as early as now. Alright, now for trematodes, they all appear. All of your flukes depend, bahalag asa siya gikan, regardless of their habitat, regardless of the area where they live inside your body, they appear as flat and leaf-like. Except for schistosomes or your Schistosoma species. They are elongated or cylindrical. Ayan. So this is the normal appearance of your fluke. Again, fasciola, your Clonorchis, the rest of your fluke. Okay, so it's flat and it looks like a leaf. Alright? Except for your schistosomes. So as you can see, your Schistosoma adult looks like this. No, it's not flat. Okay, it's cylindrical. So it looks like it actually looks like a roundworm. Okay? Alright. But again, it's under the trematodes. Okay? Because ang iyahang mga genetic and morphological characteristics belong to the trematodes. Okay? Bahalagin na niyang appearance. Okay? So it's still under the trematodes. Okay? Ayan. So this is the general appearance yun except for the schistosomes. Okay. Next, they are all hermaphroditic, meaning each of them contain both the male and female reproductive organs. Okay? So usa ka fluke contains already the female and male reproductive organs. Except again for kinsa man, schistosomes. Separate ang sexes. In this picture, we have here the big one is the male and the small one is the female. Okay. All right. Now, your male, as you can see, the center of that, okay, di ko kabalo mo draw, guys. But the center, kabantay mo kung asa nagsulod ang female, it's a canal. All right? And that's what we call a gynecophoral canal. Okay? That is found in the male Schistosoma adult. The female goes inside, okay, and magsige na sila sex. Okay? Magsige na sila og sex. Magsige na sila produce og eggs forever. Okay? Now, once your Schistosoma adults reach this position, this is considered or this is known as Schistosoma in copula. Okay? In copula. Copula. Muni spelling ha, baka hindi klaro. Copula, meaning they are copulating. They are reproducing. They are always constantly in sex. Okay? Sana all, charot lang. And forever na gina sila, as in forever is not enough, charot. Forever na gid silang inani. Okay? They will appear until they die. And they always produce eggs na. Okay? So that's how they reproduce. Okay? So their sexes are separate, meaning one worm is the male, another worm is another schistosoma is the female, and another schistosoma is the male. Alright? Whereas the rest of your flukes, kani sila, one fluke already contains the male reproductive organ and the female reproductive organ. Okay? Except lang again for schistosome. Again, this is schistosoma in copula, meaning they are in sex. Okay? They're in reproduction state. Okay? So they always produce na eggs. Okay? Alright. And again, kung asa nagpuyo ang female and the male, kung asa siya nisulod, that is known as your gynecophoral canal. It's found in your males. Okay? Next characteristic, all eggs are operculated except for, kinsa again, schistosomes. Alright, di ba? Alright, ayan. So, what do you mean by operculated? Your eggs of your trematodes, ang ilang appearance is like this. Naa sila'y operculum. This is what we call an operculum. Meaning, it's like a hatch. Okay? So, para siyang door. Okay? So, nag-develop ang larva diri. Once it reaches adult stage, mo-open ang hatch. Okay, mo-open ang operculum. Okay, so mo-open siya. Sorry guys. And then the larva goes out. Alright? That's for the rest of your flukes. Whereas for your schistosome, di ba, we've seen in our virtual microscope activity, wala siya operculum. Okay? Naa siya mga spine, di ba? Alright, okay. Ayan. That's for the eggs. Next, we have life cycle of trematodes. Still the same follows sa imuhang nematodes, egg, larva, adult. But the larva has different stages. We have miracidium, sporocyst, redia, cercaria, and finally the metacercaria. So I have a mnemonic for that. Don't worry. Okay, credits ako ang review center. Okay, we have for larva ang stages Miss R.C. Munoz. Okay, you have miracidia, sporocyst, or miracidium, uredia, cercaria, and finally the metacercaria. Okay? Alright, ayan. So again, you'll discuss it in your lecture ulit. So that's the stages of the larva. And the infective stage, except for schistosomes, na kutob ra siya og cercaria. Alright? Wala sila metacercaria ang schistosomes. And the infective stage of the rest of your flukes to the host is the metacercaria, except still the same for schistosomes, na cercaria. Since your schistosomes wala may metacercaria, dire sila kutob, dire siya taman. So muna siyang yung infective stage for schistosomes. Alright? Okay. And the mode of transmission is ingestion for the rest of your flukes, ingestion of the host, except for, again, so the same schistosomes na skin penetration. Ayan. So, skin penetration of your cercaria. And your schistosomes, they have a characteristic cercaria that is described as forked tail. Later na atay picture ana. Alright, and lastly, they require two intermediate hosts. The first one is always a snail. Always a snail, except for, again, schistosomes. That requires only one intermediate host, which is a snail. Alright, so that's for the trematodes, guys. As you can see, kinsay tanan na exceptions. Kinsay tanan na pa-special. Kinsa ang pabibo? Schistosomes. Okay? Siya tanan na ay exceptions. Alright? Okay, so please take note. Always, two intermediate hosts, regardless if fasciola ba na siya or other flukes, as long as dili schistosomes, two intermediate hosts. One, always, the first one is the snail. The second one could be a fish. Pwedeng mga vegetation, like kangkong, mga ganun. Yes, naana siya. Okay? But for schistosomes, it's only one intermediate host, and that is your snail. Okay? Alright, ayan. So again, that's for your trematodes. Okay? So, again, Miss R.C. Munoz, guys. Kaning Miss R.C. Munoz, guys, again, that's the larval stages of the rest of your flukes except schistosome. Ang schistosomes kutobrag R.C. Wala na siya Munoz. Meaning, wala na siya metacercaria. Diba? Right there. Except for schistosomes, no metacercaria. Alright, okay, now we'll go first now with the first species, and that is your Clonorchia sinensis. Okay, now, I've included this because, bakit ko sinali si Clonorchis? I was really, akong plan initially was just to include, Schistosoma lang yun, ato i-discuss here. But I included Clonorchis kasi lumabas to sa boards. My board exam, okay? And ang lumabas is the common name. The question was, this is known as your Oriental, Chinese liver fluke. Ayan, nako. 1 point na guys, press the buzzer. That's Clonorchia sinensis. That's why it's very, very important that you know the common name or the other name of your parasites. Regardless if nematode ba siya, protozoa, tapeworm, because lumalabas sa boards. That's why sa atong virtual microscope na activity, I always ask you, okay, what is the common name of your trichuris? Whipworm. What is the common name of your enterobius? Pinworm. Because lumalabas sa boards, okay? Dapat press the buzzer na, okay? As early as na. So again, Chinese liver fluke. Sino yan? Clonorchia sinensis. Okay? Alright. Chinese liver fluke or your Oriental liver fluke. The first intermediate host, because again, it's a normal fluke, dili man siya schistosomes, wala sa pangalan, hindi siya schistosoma. So the first intermediate host is a snail. Alright. And the second intermediate host is the fish. Sa other types of flukes, guys, you'll know in your lecture. Example, fasciola, fasciolopsis. I did not include it here kay medyo TMI na. Fasciola and fasciolopsis. Their second intermediate host usually is vegetation. Okay? Alright. So when you say vegetation, usually ka na mga kangkong, water spinach, basta yung mga nasa river, okay? Or para nasa water, nakasubmerge siya sa water, okay? Yeah, so for the rest of your flukes, sa second intermediate host sila mo differ. But the rest of them, first intermediate host yun nila is snail, alright? And for Clonorchis, it's fish, okay? Alright, ayan. Infective stage, since it's a normal fluke, dili siya schistosome, metacercaria. Diagnostic stage, your eggs usually, and the adults kay rare lang. Mode of transmission is the ingestion of the fish that contains the metacercaria. Alright? So, inanara ang mode of transmission for flukes, except for schistosomes, guys. Ingestion of the second intermediate host that contains the infective stage. Ayan. So, very, very straightforward. Alright, okay. Ayan. And the eggs are operculated. So, yung eggs na ay hatch sa sulod. And then, like that. Okay, mature when it's laid. So, meaning once it is in the environment, mature na siya. Meaning, ready na siya to develop into the larva. Okay? And it's shaped like an old-fashioned electric light bulb. So, yun yung appearance. This is the old-fashioned electric light bulb. And its habitat, very important, is found in the bile duct or your gallbladder. Diba? It's a liver fluke. So, it's found there. That's why it's considered to be the most important liver fluke to man because it can cause cholangiocarcinoma. When you say cholangiocarcinoma, cancer of your bile duct, cholangio, okay, or cancer of the gallbladder if I'm not mistaken. Alright, basta related to your bile duct or gallbladder. If hindi siya maagapan, okay? Alright, so that's for Clonorchia sinensis, and this is the egg, theoretically. And this is the appearance, diba? Para siyang light bulb. It has a small knob, okay, opposite of the operculum. So, klaro kayong operculum, guys? It looks like a hatch, para siyang door, that opens when the larva matures, okay? Alright, ayan. Okay, now we go now to its life cycle. Ayan. Okay, life cycle, again, starting with embryonated eggs. Nalibang ang patient, no? With the Clonorchia sinensis eggs. It goes into the water. It's ingested by the snail, which is your first intermediate host. And in the snail, the eggs hatch and develop into the larva. Ayan, di ba, Miss RC? Okay? And once the Clonorchis fluke reaches the cercaria stage, it bursts the snails, guys. As in, yung i-burst ang snails. Luoy kayo. Alright? And after, it goes out into the water and becomes metacercaria. Alright? And, cercaria di ay ang ma-eat sa fish, or it is insisted on the flesh of the fish, and then in the fish na, it then develops into the metacercaria. Okay? And once we eat this fish, raw, undercooked, that contains the metacercaria, then it then develops into the adult Clonorchis. Okay? And again, it resides in your bile duct or gallbladder. And if not treated, can cause cholangiocarcinoma. Okay? It's very important. Again, what is the common name? Press the buzzer. Chinese liver fluke, Oriental liver fluke. nilabas sa akong boards. Okay? Very, kana mga common names, guys. Again, that's just like additional points lang yun na if mo gawa sa boards. Bonus na kaya na siya. Okay? Kay very easy lang na question. So again, as much as possible, as early as now, in your lecture, in our class, please familiarize, memorize the common names. Okay? Or the other names. Alright? Para press the buzzer na. Okay. So that's just the species of fluke, na normal fluke na itong i-discuss. Alright? And we'll go now to your schistosomes, starting first with Schistosoma japonicum. The common name is your oriental blood fluke. Your schistosomes, guys, are also known as your blood flukes. Okay? Why? Because they reside in your blood vessels. Okay? The adults of your schistosoma, they reside in your blood vessels. Okay? Alright, that's why they're considered blood flukes. Intermediate host is a snail and its species Oncomelania hupensis quadrasi. In your lecture with Ma'am Bernal, tabular form yan. Yes. And nice kaya notes ni Ma'am Bernal ani. It's all tabular. And then, yes, memorize. Different scientific name of your snails. Nako, yes. Ma-enjoy mo, anak. TMI good kayo. So, but tabular siya. So, nice kayo ang presentation sa info, sa notes ni Ma'am Bernal as in. So, like, easy lang siya pag-memorize. Like, first, intermediate host, muna siya mga scientific names sa snails. Second, scientific name of kangkong, if na. Example sa mga fasciola, ganun. So, prepare, guys. Yes. So, kalma-kalma na ta diri. Okay? Intermediate host. Again, since it's a schistosome, only one. Okay? Which is a snail, Oncomelania. And that is your appearance of the Oncomelania. Alright? I'm pretty sure nakakita na ko ani. Alright, but anyway. Alright. Habitat is found in the superior mesenteric vein of the small intestine. Ayan. As you can see, vein. So it's found in your blood vessels. And the infective stage is again what we call your cercaria. Wala siya, metacercaria ang schistosome. And the cercaria of the schistosomes are forked tail. What do you mean by forked tail? Ayan, forked tail. So this is the head. Okay, this is the developing the larva. And then this is the forked tail. So na siya ikog. And it's motil. Move siya, guys. Okay? Alright. Move siya. Okay. Alright. And the mode of transmission, skin penetration. So, siya radyo mo differ sa mga flukes. Siya ang kakaiba. Okay? Siya ang outcast. Okay? One of a kind of fluke, your schistosomes. Diba? In our general characteristics, it's always except schistosomes. Kaya pabibo siya. Okay? Alright. Ayan. So, skin penetration, allergic reaction, swimmer's itch. So, usually, makuha ni siya if you submerge your feet unprotected on water. Okay? And the water contains the cercaria. Fork tail cercaria, or also known as furco-cercus. So furco, fork, cercus, cercaria. Furco-cercus. Okay? Alright. And the eggs, they are roundish. And again, based on our virtual microscope activity, it has a small knob or small lateral spine. Okay? But it's difficult to see in the microscopic exam. So, muna siyang appearance. Ayan. The one that is pointed is the small lateral knob, small lateral spine. Okay? That's Schistosoma japonicum. Okay? Fork-tail cercaria, ha? Okay. The fork-tail cercaria is tanan of the Schistosoma species. That is the infective stage. Okay? Alright. And the next species, of course, Schistosoma mansuni, Manson's blood fluke. Intermediate host is snail, but this time, ibang species, Biumphilaria species. So this is this appearance. So as you can see, again, in your lecture, guys, prepare maraming scientific names ng snails, at saka mga kangkong dyan. So, laban. Okay, alright. Ayan. So, again ha, disclaimer na to. So, para ma-prepare. Okay, kalma-kalma lang. So, ang atong discussion diri kalma lang. Alright, okay. So, habitat this time is inferior mesenteric vein of the colon and rectum. So, still the same veins pa rin, or venous, blood vessels. Alright. Infective stage, cercaria, fork tail, mode of transmission, still the same, skin penetration. And for eggs, it's oblong with prominent, large, lateral spine. Ayan, di ba? This one. Very distinct, very characteristic. Press the buzzer kayo ang appearance. That's for Schistosoma mansoni. Okay, now those are only the two species of Schistosoma that I will discuss here. But in the lecture, napay uban. You may be wondering, sir, asang hematobium or Schistosoma hematobium, di ba? Prominent terminal spine. Your Schistosoma hematobium manggod, they reside, okay, they live in your urinary bladder, okay, na mga blood vessels there. Alright, so therefore, makuha siya sa urine, okay? So that's a different specimen. So we're just focusing on the schistosomes that we can get from stools, okay? Or from our stool specimens, from our fecal smears, alright? Now, your Schistosoma hematobium may also be retrieved from your stool, but rarely lang yun. But most of the time, good, your Schistosoma hematobium is retrieved from your urine. Okay? Alright, your urine. Okay. Alright, ayan. That's Schistosoma mansuni. And we go now to the life cycle of Schistosoma species, because regardless of the species of Schistosoma, they follow the same life cycle. Okay? Alright, ayan. So it starts first with, of course, the worms, no? They release the eggs. The eggs are released into the environment, usually sa water. It hatches and release the miracidia. The miracidia then penetrate the tissue of your snail and then develop into Miss RC, and then finally the Cercaria, okay, which is fork tail and it's moving. And this one now penetrates the skin. So usually, when does it occur? When you are walking barefooted on water, okay? Especially usually common in mga farm, kana mga rice paddies, kana mga farmers sa rice farmers, di ba, magtiniil sila. So, wet man ang land, di ba? Wet man ang ilahang soil. And of course, na may mga snails dira. So, that could be possible good na source of infection. All right? That's why this is one of my studies unta before sa akong third year that I wanted to focus like the prevalence of Schistosoma among farmers. Because again, I think wala pa sila naka-aware about Schistosoma, di ba? So, it's something that I will focus on in the future. All right? Because it's very interesting. All right. So, again, pagtunog, okay, when you walk barefoot, for example, are rice farmers in the rice paddies. All right? So, the Cercaria, di ba, penetrates the skin of the patient. Okay? All right? Now, pag penetrate niya, the Cercaria loses the tail. Mawala ni siya. Okay? Mawala ni siya. And they now become what we call a schistosomule. Okay, what is a schistosomule? It's a Cercaria without the tail. Okay, without the tail. Alright? So, kanina lang upper body without the tail. Alright? And this schistosomule goes to the circulation, goes to the blood vessels kung asa siya mo reside sa intestines ba or sa bladder, and then develops there to become adults, releases eggs, and then the cycle goes on. Alright? So, that's the cycle for Schistosoma species, regardless of the species. Okay? So, asa siya mo differ, kung asa na blood vessels, or they differ on the habitat, okay? Kung asa sila mo reside. Okay? And of course, their eggs. Alright? Okay, so that's for your schistosomes. Diba? Very straightforward naman. Alright, again, more of that will be discussed by Ma'am B in the lecture. So, mga ano lang ito. Again, we're focusing on the intestinal, the schistosomes that we can get from the feces or from our fecal smears. Alright, okay. Now, for the next part, next video, hopefully, are the last that we can recover from your fecal smears, and the last of your helminths, your tapeworms or cestodes. So, I apologize if medyo daghang parts, guys, because number one, akong phone is kulang og memory. And number two, para dili taas, para parts lang. Alright? On our next video, and hopefully the last, we'll now focus on the cestodes or your tapeworms. So, I'll see you on the next and hopefully the last video. Alright.